So after talking about Encanto, which is an amazing animated movie from this current decade that is the 2020s, I think it only seems fair to talk about another animated movie from the 2020s. One that, unfortunately, isn't that good. Okay, what do we have to work with? Onward? Nah, I actually really like that one. Space Jam 2, I'd rather not get into that one. Sponge on the Run? Okay, maybe something I've actually seen. Raya and the Last Dragon? Maybe some other day. Maybe though. Oh, Scoob. I remember this one. This came out when COVID was a new thing, when we all had to stay at home. And this had to be released digitally instead of in theaters for obvious reasons. I was never really much of a Scooby-Doo person though, but I was still familiar with the franchise, with it being about 4 teenagers and a talking dog going around solving mysteries and unmasking monsters. And after all, Scooby-Doo is a pretty iconic brand. Hell, I'm even sure the littlest of kids know who Scooby-Doo is. Oh yeah, there are also other bits of Scooby-Doo related stuff I've seen, from Robot Chicken shorts to their appearance in LEGO Dimensions. I don't remember that game. There were even like other Scooby-Doo movies I've seen, like Zombie Island and those weird live-action ones directed by James Gunn. Just felt like bringing that up real quick. Anyway, going back to Scoob, I'm not entirely sure what drew me into watching this movie in the first place. Could have been the whole Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe Warner was trying to set up with this film. But regardless, I did indeed watch this movie. Don't remember enjoying it though. And a lot of people seem to have agreed with me. But it has been about 2 years since the movie came out, and I decided to rewatch it. Give it another chance and see how much has changed. And after doing so, I gotta say, I actually ended up not changing my mind that much. This movie really isn't that good. But why is that though? As a non-Scooby-Doo fan, what's my whole perspective on this movie and what makes it so not good? Well, that's what we're discussing today. So without further ado, let's Scooby-Doo this shit. Oh, stop it. It was the best transition I could come up with. Now let me start off by saying this movie isn't complete pig shit, because there are good qualities here. Let's talk about those first. First of all, it's animation. Now the animation may not be anything groundbreaking, but I do really enjoy how cartoony it gets at times. Especially with some of these sound effects.
Ow, what was that for?
Making sure this isn't a dream.
You're supposed to pinch yourself.
Ow!
Ow! Ow!
Love that shit. Fucking love some of these character designs too. I know some people have complained that Dee Dee Skies over here looks like a Fortnite character and Fred looks kind of off, which I do kind of agree with, honestly. But the way they incorporated Scooby, Shaggy, Captain Caveman, Dick Dastardly, and Muttley, it looks like they were ripped straight from their respective cartoons. I love it. Okay, maybe not in Dick's case, but he still has a cool design. The settings look great too. I love the puke green of this abandoned amusement park. This funhouse bit looks pretty damn cool too, with all the mirrors, the purples, the blues, the reds and shit. And especially this mixture of purple and green used for the climax. This movie really makes for some great eye candy overall. I guess the humor was pretty decent. I mean, not every joke lands.
And apparently he's been stealing Netflix by using his mother's account.
That is not fair for the rest of us who have to pay for Netflix.
You have to pay for Netflix?
But there were still some good ones here and there, like this one.
Ryan, do something!
Like what?
Like drop some F-bombs!
Hey man, whoa, let's keep it PG.
Or this one.
He didn't mean it.
No fries for you.
Like, I don't even know why I find this one so humorous. Well, I think that's it for the positives. Okay, I guess I have a few more positives, but I think it's best if I save those for later. Well, time for the moment we've all been waiting for. Time to see what makes Scoob a complete fucking mess. Let's discuss the characters first. Now, I'm not entirely sure where I heard this from, but I hear that characters are pretty much like the bones of the human body. Without good, healthy, well-functioning bones, your body wouldn't be able to function at all. So without good, well-developed, likable characters, that would kind of ruin your whole story. Scoob may not have the worst characterization I've ever seen, but it's still kinda bad. Some characters are just pushed to the side and get fuck all important to do, like Dee Dee Skies, Captain Caveman, and Fred, Velma, and Daphne. Others go through some poorly written character arcs like Scooby, Shaggy, and the Blue Falcon. I guess I will give the film credit that Scooby and Shaggy are still somewhat in character here, and had their fair share of charming moments, but there's also this whole thing about their friendship being tested and they have this falling out during the third act, like a lot of animated movies do. Now on paper, I can kinda see why Shaggy would be upset. The first 12 minutes of the film established that Shaggy was very lonely, and Scooby was pretty much the first friend he ever had. Here's the problem though. After the first 12 minutes, we just immediately jump to the gang all grown up. So we hardly get to see them grow or connect with each other, leaving their friendship kind of underdeveloped. This also makes Shaggy look like a complete prick. Okay, for some better context, Dick Dastardly apparently needs 3 skulls of Cerberus to not only find a bunch of treasure in hell, but to get his dog Muttley back too. He also needs Scooby to unlock the gates of hell because he's apparently the descendant of Alexander the Great's dog. And at some point in the film, Dastardly just kind of says Shaggy's worthless to him and just kicks him aside, which pisses him off. So when Scooby's getting this whole new suit, apparently the collar's in the way, which is the very thing Shaggy gave to him as a kid, and Scooby said he'd never take it off. Shaggy then gives a little nod to Scooby, saying it's okay to take it off, and then...
It's clearly important to whatever Dastardly's got planned. We need him.
Yeah, I'm the key.
The key? You're not the key. Okay, you're my best friend. At least I thought you were until you whipped off your collar.
My collar? You gave me the nod.
But I didn't think you'd really do it. I didn't think you'd really do it.
I didn't think you'd really do it.
Oh, fuck you, Shaggy. Fuck you. Now, I guess you can make the argument that Scooby should have been a little more hesitant on removing the collar. And yeah, looking back on it, I guess Scoob did have a bit of an ego here. But that still doesn't make Shaggy any better. If anything, doesn't it kind of make this whole arc worse? Because on one hand, it's kind of hard to root for Scooby because of what he did with the collar. But it's also hard to root for Shaggy because of how he handles the situation. So if anything, I don't think I'm able to root for anyone here. And this whole thing kind of feels toxic and unreasonable for a friendship that's supposedly been going on for years. Wouldn't it be more interesting to have a moment like this when they were kids? You know, when they were just starting out? Wouldn't it have been more interesting to have this whole movie be an origin story? Also, here's another thing I noticed. How come they didn't put the collar on after the suit was fully formed? I know the suit already came with a collar, but come on, Shaggy really couldn't talk things out with the Blue Falcon to see if they could organize something to keep the collar on if it was really that special to them? They really didn't think this shit through, did they? So, how do they make up for all this, you may be asking? A cliche, bullshit fake-out scene where Shaggy has to sacrifice himself in order to close the doors of hell forever. And everyone else is just so sad that he just left forever. Except for me. Words cannot describe how much I fucking hate it when animated movies use this cliche. Not only has it been done so many times where it becomes blatantly obvious that the character's not going to be done like this, but the writers obviously don't have the balls to. So of course they bring him back and everyone's happy again, the bad guy's caught and there's this whole dance party ending and I just don't fucking care. Again, I'm not against the idea of their friendship being tested, and Shaggy can still be upset about potentially losing his best friend. But it's the way they executed it that really didn't do it for me. Same goes for Blue Falcon over here. Okay, I know his name's technically Brian and he's more of a descendant of the original Blue Falcon, but I'm still just gonna call him Blue Falcon anyway. Anyway, he spends most of the movie acting like a lazy, arrogant, cowardly teenager. Now this wouldn't be an issue if he actually had some genuine, believable, satisfying growth throughout the movie. But no, we just kinda changed it at the last possible minute. Cause that's totally how a character arc works. Cause yeah, who wants to see characters go through engaging struggles, overcome challenges, and naturally learn a lesson by the end, if we could just have him change like a light switch around the third act? Yeah, that's much better to see. Good storytelling's fucking lame, am I right, folks? Gee, there has to be a decent character arc in this movie somewhere, right? Oh yeah. Now, Dick Nut might be the most well-written villain ever, but I still think he's the best character in this movie. Which really isn't saying much. Anyway, it's shown in a flashback scene that Dick built a portal to hell. Dick is also narrating this to Fred, Velma, and Daphne, who he's captured at that point, and he claims that Muttley chose to go in there and Dick told him not to, when we actually see Dick force Muttley to go in there, which I will admit was pretty damn funny. However, once he sees that Muttley can't come back from the portal being unstable, Dick genuinely gets concerned. And once the portal's fully destroyed, that's pretty much what's motivating him to find all these skulls and go to hell. It's not only get a bunch of treasure, but to find and reunite with Muttley. In a way, he sort of reminds me of other villains like Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series, Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse, or Wen-Wu from Shang-Chi. Those are other villains that had lost loved ones and had their goals be based around getting them back. Again, I don't think Dick is the most groundbreaking villain ever, but I wouldn't be lying if I said I genuinely felt bad for him here. And despite him being, well, a dick, and him constantly fighting with Muttley, he still genuinely cares about him. So I guess you can say I sympathize with the villain more than our main heroes. That's no good. And now it's time to get into what might be my biggest problem with Scoob, which is how it handles its identity. Now, a common complaint I'm always hearing about this movie is that it focuses too much on the superhero stuff and less on the Scooby-Doo stuff, which after all, it did take up most of the film's marketing. And again, not a Scooby-Doo fan, so you think I wouldn't really care too much, right? But using what little knowledge I actually have of the franchise, I think I have something to say about this. Now, I wouldn't say the movie completely gets rid of the Scooby-Doo stuff. The first 12 minutes of the movie is like a full-blown Mystery Inc. origin story, followed up by a recreation of the classic intro. Fred, Velma, and Daphne get into some kind of mystery where they figure out who the main bad guy is. At the end of the movie, everyone fights Cerberus. You know, a ghost dog. Yeah, it's a little bit too high stakes for the supposed cinematic universe's first outing, but whatever. However, I can kind of see where people are coming from with this. The mystery gang being separated, with, like I said earlier, leaving Fred, Velma, and Daphne with fuck all to do, and the whole controversy with the voice actors changing. Even that 12-minute origin story at the beginning was completely pointless. And the whole mystery where they figure out Dick Dashley's the bad guy is only ever used to move the story along, and isn't really an overarching thing throughout the whole movie. And that kind of plays into the whole identity crisis this movie has. But before we get back into that, let's discuss the MCU real quick. Whether you love this franchise or not, there is no denying the impact it's had on not just cinema, but pop culture in general. From obliterating the box office on some occasions, from gaining dozens of fans worldwide, from turning obscure D-list superheroes into beloved household names, and successfully pulling off its little cinematic universe format, it's really not hard to see why this has become one of the most successful and iconic film franchises of all time. However, there's a certain rule in the entertainment industry that if a certain product becomes insanely popular and beloved, it's bound to have imitators, which more often than not fail and don't seem to understand what made the thing they're trying to imitate so popular. The MCU is no exception. It too had its fair share of other studios trying to capitalize on its success, mainly with its cinematic universe format. Sony tried this with their amazing Spider-Man franchise, still not going well with their little Venomverse. Universal tried this with their classic movie monsters. The first film didn't do well in the box office, so they just kind of called it quits. Even Warner Brothers themselves tried doing this with their famous DC heroes, and now they consider rebooting the whole franchise with that new Flash movie. Now, it's not the fact they even want to try a cinematic universe that's the problem, it's the way they handle it. See, their idea of creating a shared universe is cramming in character cameos or bits of world building with no rhyme or reason, or no thought of whether they fit the story or not, and focus more on setting up future movies instead of telling a good standalone story. Scoob unfortunately falls into this incredibly elaborate trap. It too never properly thought its story out and decided to cram in 4 different Hanna-Barbera franchises in one movie. And in some cases, they barely even fit. Like seriously, you could replace Captain Caveman with a completely original character not found in any previous Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and nothing would have changed. Like, imagine if the MCU started with a Fantastic Four movie, and Human Torch and Thing are completely separated from the team for most of it. And they're also forced to team up with Iron Man, who also has War Machine and Storm working for him. Why is Storm working with Iron Man and not the X-Men? I don't know, don't ask questions. Anyway, now they're on a mission to get 3 pieces of the Tesseract before Red Skull gets to them, and unleashes the Chitauri upon the world. Anyway, at some point our heroes go to Wakanda and meet Black Panther, and he serves absolutely no purpose to the story. Yeah, that's pretty much Scoob in a nutshell. Much like its other failed cousins, it doesn't seem to get why the MCU worked so well. It's because Marvel took their time, planned things out, properly fleshed out its main characters, knew when to introduce certain characters and bits of Marvel lore from the comics into which movie. which makes moments like the first Avengers coming together, the main heroes fighting in Civil War, that fucking phenomenal third act in Endgame, and Tony Stark's big sacrifice all the more satisfying and rewarding to witness because we got to watch through multiple movies properly introducing and fleshing out these characters. Scoob really shouldn't have introduced all these characters in one movie. This should have just been a very traditional, standard Scooby-Doo story instead. Then later give Blue Falcon and Captain Caveman their solo movies. And then you can have them all cross over. And like I said earlier, there's still some attempt at being a Scooby-Doo love letter. But it's all clashing with the cinematic universe shit. And that's kind of the thing making this movie feel messy, identityless, and Frankenstein together. All these cringy, pointless, out-of-place modern references really don't make it any better either. Again, I'm not against the idea of a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. Hell, I'm actually down for something like that. It's just the way they executed it all, and how it's clashing with all these Scooby-Doo homages. And all this really did was just make me appreciate the MCU more. Well, I can safely say as a non-Scooby-Doo fan, I did not enjoy Scoob all that much. It did have some nice animation, some decent humor, and a pretty good villain, but that was not enough to save this film's piss-poor writing. The emotional beats don't work because the characters getting involved have to act so unlikable in order for it to even work. It fails at setting up a cinematic universe in the first damn movie. And above all, it feels like the movie just didn't know what it wanted to be. And part of it kind of sucks too, because I do know there were some people working on this movie that wanted to make it genuinely good. And I do see glimpses of a good movie here. And I could have seen this being a great way of introducing Scooby-Doo to a new generation of fans. And I guess the other Hanna-Barbera characters too. And they would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for those meddling executives. Oh well. If they do decide to continue this little cinematic universe of theirs, I sure as hell hope they'll improve on the future projects. Okay, bye.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now.